and being the head of one of the largest insurance company in the world, and also as a joint venture partner in India, both an asset management company as well as an insurance company. A lot of questions are coming from various participants. One of the questions which has come is, I think the last 1 month, rather 2 months, the equity markets have been extremely volatile, and it has taken away the returns for investors which would have generated over a period of 3 and 5 year period. Everything got taken away in a 1 month period. And during this period, when investors' confidence got shaken up, on these occasions, the question which is coming is, how should one go about one advising investors as well as even advisors themselves have to stay confident? How do we manage these situations to give the confidence to themselves as well as to the investors?
Yeah, I think first of all, acknowledging that concern of investors, that acknowledging the fact that the markets have gone down, the markets have been extremely volatile, and just acknowledging that you understand why people would be concerned about that. Personally, I like the escalator analogy and the yo-yo, the escalator and the yo-yo. I think it's a way for people to understand the longer term picture, the need to look over the longer term. But the yo-yo on the escalator is not enough. You need to complement that with data and go back and look at and be able to talk about some of the big, market volatile moments, 1987 crash, the global financial crisis, to be able to spotlight, the importance of systematic investing through those periods, and also spotlight the folly of selling out and cashing out at the wrong moment at the bottom. And to me, this is where advisors really add value, which is persuading clients to not sell right at the bottom. The other thing is to remind people that after this crisis, the world will go back, and people will need to buy cars, they'll need to buy bikes, the economies will be transformed. The Indian economy will continue to transform. It's unstoppable. I mean, the movement of people into the middle class, the development of India, and all the dreams around economic expansion in India there'll be stops and starts along the way, but the direction of travel is unmistakable. And I think investing in that for the longer run makes a lot of sense. So I think it comes back to, having a bit of an analogy with the escalator, the yo-yo, having some data points from the past, but also looking past this immediate crisis and saying what is true, what continues to be true about investment in India and economic growth in India. And I think when you think of it that way, it's a positive story.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. I'm sure this will be quite useful for people to give the right advice to their investors. Yesterday, of course, I'm sure you would have had a very brief noting of the Prime Minister's address yesterday on Indian economy, where he has committed 10% of GDP would be used actually for providing support in the current COVID crisis situation. And the Prime Minister also has gone about building a tagline which says that local and one has to be vocal. Basically, it's a local brand, local manufacturing, and one need also go to local. And given the fact that Sun Life, being a $1 trillion company and having presence in the global market, including Asia and India, being one of your largest foray in the asset management business and insurance, how do you see the current move of Prime Minister in the eyes of global investors?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised to see that part of Mr. Modi's message to favor local and buy local. This has been a trend. Frankly, the United States started this, and the United States is going at it with China. But, this crisis has accelerated that. It starts with just the supply chain around personal protective equipment and drugs and medical. And I think, but it's expanding to other industries and other services. I think ultimately it's a game changer for investing. And what it will mean is, and this is what, your team is so good at, Bala, which is kind of understanding what does this mean to manufacturers here in India if all of a sudden it's going to be a more local market? What does that mean to the supply chains for those businesses? What does that mean for the demand for those businesses? And what are those investment opportunities going to look like? Ultimately, it will produce inflation, right? If our countries are all supplying things locally, it's going to be more expensive in a number of cases. And I think that's going to drive inflation, and we need to think about that again as we invest, and what sectors will benefit from inflation and price inflation, which are going to get hurt. So there's a lot to think about. This is a pretty big change. The world is changing. The world is changing from global integrated supply chains to more local self-sufficiency. And it's a pretty big pivot coming out of the crisis. It started before the crisis, but the crisis is going to accelerate and accentuate it. And I think, again, that's why our clients need advice from a trusted advisor. That's why they need the support of Birla Sun Life Asset Management with decades of experience and wisdom around how these things work.
Of course, there are many questions that have come that are more local in nature. That's why I'm not asking those questions, such as an SIP. I've been investing but not generating return. And somebody asked a question about what is your view on Indian economy for the next 2 years. Of course, some of it you have answered on showing your conviction on India. And I'll ask the last question from my side. Given your own 20 years of involvement with India, and you yourself personally have managed the big growth for Sun Life from about $400 billion company to about a $1 trillion company. If you can just give the insight about your commitment to India in general and to the asset management industry, where we are one of the fourth largest asset management company in India, and we have been expanding continuously. And your view on AMC business in India would be quite useful for the audience.
Yeah, it's you're right. We've had a great run at Sun Life. We've gone from $400 billion to $1 trillion. It's amazing. It took us 145 years to get to the first $500 billion of assets, and it took us just 6 years to get the next $500 billion, which is the power of compounding and growth and investment. And I see the same happening in India. I've watched the growth of Birla Sun Life Asset Management and the mutual fund industry. And when you think about mutual fund industry in India, in the United States, mutual fund assets, AUM as a percentage of GDP is now over 100%. In India, the last numbers I saw were 11 or 12%. So the growth potential is absolutely enormous. We've been in business 155 years, so we tend to look at things over a long period of time. Think of things in 10-year chunks, 10 years and 20-year chunks. I am absolutely convinced that over the next 10 years, the mutual fund industry in India is going to flourish. It's going to grow as the country grows. I'm absolutely convinced that India is going to grow. I say to people, it'll never be a straight line. There will always be surprises along the way. But the world's largest democracy, with the ingenuity, the hard work, the entrepreneurship of proprietors and the people in India, this technology advantage that you've created, you've leapfrogged. We're bullish on India. I'm so glad that we've got a bit. Many of our global competitors are not in our position with this relationship that we've got with you in India. We're thrilled to have it. So thank you for the question. And thanks for including me in your Voyage 2020.
Yeah. Thanks, Dean. I think it's a wonderful conversation with you. Of course, I can take back on behalf of everyone the message that yes, mutual fund is an asset class to grow. And though I can take the liberty of saying investing in Sun Life mutual fund, thanks to the support of shareholders, money is safe, with the disclaimer that mutual funds are subject to a market risk.